It is the 50th anniversary of Sun and Fun, and what great way to make history than flying your own airplane into the event. On this video, we're going to be going over some of the procedures of going into the air show, some of my tips, but keep in mind that you must follow the NOTAMs. Those are the authorities and the guiding principle of flying into this air show. Let's get started. The first thing I would say is to go over to the website flysnf.org, or you can just Google Sun and Fun. Make sure you go into the website. They have a lot of good information, and click on there the fly in, and then you're going to click on the NOTAMs. This is the guiding principle of the entire event. So I like to have the PDF. I print this PDF and I keep it on the airplane when I'm flying, and I go over it multiple times because I don't want to be the guy that shows up on YouTube as screwing up the arrival into Sun and Fun, and it has happened before. Not me, but it has happened. So make sure that you print out the arrival and review everything in here. I have read this thing many times, and every time that I fly into the show, I've flown into the show before, I always still review it because they could change something, and the last thing you want to do is screw it up. So make sure you read all these notes. We'll start off with some of the basics, like for example, the windshield sign, right? Very famous, we've seen this. Print these out before. A lot of people like to put them on their iPad on ForeFlight, and what happens is it's super bright outside. The rampers are looking to see where you're going to be parking, and they won't be able to see it through your iPad, especially if it's been hot. It starts to dim down the screen. So the best advice, make sure you print it out on actual paper and get it ready so that when you land, you literally stick that on your windshield and they know exactly where you're going to be parking. Here's an example of what that sign looks like. GAP, that's General Aviation Parking, and up here you can see all the different areas that you're going to be going, that you can be going to. For example, General Aviation Parking is a common one, and camping, if you're going to be actually camping with the aircraft. If your warbirds, exhibitors, all those have different signs. One that everybody forgets, everybody remembers to fly into the air show, but everybody forgets to fly out of the air show. So you want to print out your VFR or IFR sign, depending whether you're going to be leaving the air show VFR or IFR. So don't forget, print those out, keep them in the airplane so that you don't forget them or you lose them throughout the entire week. Prior planning prevents poor performance. I can't stress that enough. So when you're flying into Sun and Fun, make sure that you come in with plenty of gas. There could be a lot of delays sometimes. They can be sending you out to the middle of nowhere. It's actually one of the arrival points. And you don't want to be having to divert or be running it really tight on fuel and then landing at the show with no gas. I personally like to fly in with plenty of gas that I can fly out. I don't even know what the fuel prices are at the air show because most of the time I don't fuel there. Actually, I've never fueled at the air show. I always come in with enough gas to get in and get out without having any problems or having to get gas there. So it's important to carry as much gas as you possibly can because you never know when they're going to go into holding. Or something happens if an aircraft has a flat tire on the runway or whatever it is, they close the arrivals and now you're stuck. Key points coming in there as well. They don't want you to stop on the runway. You're not using your radio to communicate. I think if you're going into Sun and Fun, you probably already know that. No student pilot. So if you have a student pilot certificate, don't ask for an instructor to sign you off to go to Lakeland and fly into the air show. You obviously need to be a rated pilot. That's one of the requirements to go in there. And also keep in mind of the TFRs. The TFRs come up during the air shows. So it's important that you follow those because they will not let you in if the air show's going on, the TFR's coming on, they would not let you in. So it's important that you follow that. The airport is also closed at night. There are some times, airport closures. So they close daily from 7 to 6 a.m. And usually that's called the quiet hour because people obviously are camping on the flight line. So you don't want to be doing anything during that time. The only arrival into Sun and Fun is the Lake Parker VFR arrival, and there's two different entry points. The first entry point is obviously Fantasy of Flight Airport, and then you'll have the middle of nowhere starting point. So you have to listen to the ATIS, and the ATIS will tell you which one that you're going to be overflying. They do a really good job on the procedures for the arrival to show what the checkpoints are. So you can see here, this is what the Fantasy of Flight Airport. Now, mind you, the Fantasy of Flight Airport is a little hard to find, and there's a lot of lakes and airports around lakes in the area, in the Lakeland area. You might want to put those on in your GPS, or if you don't have a GPS, maybe ForeFlight, or mark them down in a sectional so you have an idea of where you're going. But the other landmarks are pretty easy, like the racetrack. It's really hard to miss that VFR checkpoint. And then you also have the Lake Parker, the power plant. All the arrivals lead you into basically a midfield downwind for either runway. And then you either join to the right for the orange dot or green to land the other direction. So the only two runways used during Lakeland is a lot simpler. If this is your first air show you're flying into, this is an easier air show to fly into rather than Oshkosh, because Oshkosh has so many more variables and more different arrivals. So if you're coming in, you can definitely expect either you're going to be landing east or landing west. They don't use the north and south runway. And again, this arrival is for guys that are coming into camp, if you're a warbird or if you are an ultralight helicopters, they have a different arrival. Please reference the NOTAMs so that you can go ahead and follow those instructions accordingly. If they do have holding and expect holding sometimes, like I said, for any situation that might come up, make sure that you have the procedure with you. I really highly recommend having it printed and on your iPad. That's the way that I do it, just in case. What I like to do is I like to have somebody else on the airplane and I hand them a copy of the printed version so that they can actually review it with me and make sure that I'm not missing anything. This can be a very high stress event because you have so much stuff going on. And usually when I come into one of these air shows, I'm coming in as a flight. So there's a lot of stuff more going on. The cockpit gets really busy. So I like to have somebody else that can read and say, hey, this is the next frequency. Hey, listen to this and help me out throughout the cockpit. So use your CRM and prior planning prevents poor performance. Lastly, I want to say that don't expect to have flight following within the vicinity of Orlando. That's a very busy area, especially Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville gets overloaded with IFR traffic at altitude. I can't imagine on Sun and Fun when they got all these airplanes coming in, it's going to be a disaster. Usually we have a bottleneck in the South Florida area is because Jacksonville does not have the resources to control more airplanes. So maybe give those guys a break. Use your ADS-B, use your eyes, use all the people inside your airplane and look outside for traffic because this is a very, very big congested area. And yes, it's very fun to fly into these air shows, but if you're not comfortable or you are, running out of gas or whatever it is, go ahead and divert early. There's a lot of different airports in South Florida. They actually list some of the airports in the NOTAMs that you can go to. If you don't want to go to this place or the airport gets too busy, divert to another airport that is going to be a lot calmer and it's a lot more comfortable to go into that doesn't have this type of NOTAMs. So I always like to bring that up. We always, as pilots, get mission oriented of I got to get there and I got to get there. And we have seen many cases where people have gotten into trouble because they have this mentality of get-there-itis. So always have that in your back of the mind that, hey, if I can't get in there, this is my alternate airport that I'm going to go into, and here's how I'm going to get to the airport after. So our weather at this time of the year is always changing, so you want to consider that as well. If there is weather over the airport, hey, I might have to divert to another airport, maybe sit it out and then take off in the air again, get some more gas and come back and try the arrival again. I hope I was able to share some pointers and some of my experiences of flying into these air shows. They're a lot of fun. They're high stress, but high rewarding. And just being around the community and seeing all these beautiful airplanes and so many airplanes in one spot is just something so rewarding as a pilot that every time I go to these places, I get emotional and I'm really excited to get there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys there. I will only be there for one night, unfortunately, because I do have a line check the following day. So, but at least I'll be able to go in there and say that I went to the 50th anniversary on Sun and Fun. We'll see you guys there. Hope you liked the video. If you did, leave a like below, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video.